Hi everyone, this is Mindy Egan for Honeybee Stamps. Today I'm going to show you how to really stretch your lovely layer add-on dies without even having the original. Now the add-on dies for the lovely layer sets are really meant to be what they are, add-ons to the original sets. But what I was thinking is that these add-on dies contain so many images. Why not just take one of those images to make a clean and simple card? So the two die sets that I have here that I was deciding between is the mini postcard holiday add-on, and then I also have the lovely layers fireplace holiday add-on. But I decided I really liked the tree from the fireplace add-on, although there is a tree and also there's a really cute little mug from the postcard set. So those are both really good ideas. I used the reference guide that comes with these die sets to help me pick out which dies I needed for the tree. So there are going to be, I think, 5 layers in total for the tree. So we can layer that up nicely to really add depth and dimension. We also have some trimming for the tree. There's also, I think it's like either the lights, the string of lights or ribbon. And then we also have the circles are for our ornaments. And then the star for the top of our tree. We also have a tree trunk and then the base for our tree. So off screen, I'm going to do a bunch of die cutting. I'm going to cut out all the layers for my tree. And originally I thought I would maybe color in my tree with my Copic markers, but since there is quite a bit of detail on these trees that the die provides, I'm going to do some ink blending. And my Pink Fresh inks needed a little bit of love. So those are the inks that I'm going to use today. I'm starting with the main base layer of my tree. Now, really, when you start layering these trees or these pieces up, you're not going to see the entire part. Actually, the flat piece, the top of the tree, is really not going to be seen on your first layer. The first color I did, I think, is grassy knoll. It is a really nice bright green. And then the second color I'm coming in with, still on this same piece, is olive. Now, when I bring in the next layer of the tree, I'm kind of giving myself a guide as to where or how far down I need to go. The idea behind this is I wanted my tree to have almost two colors to each layer. I wanted that really nice, bright, vibrant green towards the bottom. And then where the next layer is going to come in, I want to use a darker shade of ink. So any blending brush is going to work nice for this. I happen to be using the ones from Pink Fresh because my Honeybee blending brushes are kind of designated to my Distress Oxide inks. So I'm moving on to the next layer for my tree, and I am working on a sticky mat. This one happens to be from Altenew. It's holding my die cut in place while I'm doing my ink blending, and it's also nice that it's holding my ink pad in place too. And each time that I remove the piece, I am wiping up my sticky mat using a stamp chamois because I didn't want any of that dark ink to transfer into where I wanted the lighter color. And it's really easy to wipe up. I'll continue on with that same process of starting with my lighter ink and then coming in from the top with a darker ink. Now, as I get to these smaller pieces, or the pieces that are really going to be more towards the top, it started to get a little hard to keep that separation of the light ink and the dark ink. So I am bringing in a shader brush from Honeybee Stamps. I think this is a size 10. It has an angled kind of edge to it. And I'm going to use that on the rest of these smaller pieces to really help me get that transition of color and keep those two different shades to give me nice contrast on my tree. So, this idea of really just looking at those add on die sets, which sometimes may seem a little overwhelming because of how many pieces are on there, but when you can just single out one image and create a clean and simple card with that one image, it takes a lot of the stress off of you and you don't have to feel so overwhelmed. So I set my tree off on the side for now. I have my remaining pieces that I'm going to go ahead and die cut off screen as well. The kind of squiggly outline piece, I die cut from both a bright red cardstock and a dark green cardstock. I wasn't sure which color I would want to use for it, so I did die cut it multiple times in two different colors. I also have my base, my tree pot, and the ornaments I did from a gold glitter cardstock. Now, the assembly of the tree is going to go pretty quick. This card probably only really took me an hour to create. I'm going to just layer these pieces up with the liquid glue and super easy. You just match up the top of the tree for each of the layers. I have my reverse tweezers. that I can just kind of hold the piece there, add my glue, flip it over, and then line up the top of the tree. Just keeps my fingers out of the way so I can really see where I need to line those pieces up. The rest of the pieces, this is a great time to dig through any scraps that you might have, maybe for any type of shading of brown for your tree trunk. That I'm not going to do any shading to because you don't really see a lot of it. But for the tree pot or the base for my tree trunk, I am bringing in, I think this is Mulberry Blush from Pink Brush Studio. And again, I'm using one of the shader brushes to just kind of swipe some of that color in from each side and also the bottom. Since my tree has that shading, I wanted kind of the rest of these pieces to match. And then I can go ahead and add that. I did have to lift up the bottom of my tree a little bit just to tuck that in underneath. Now, for that other piece, which I think it's like a string maybe to hang our lights from, I'm going to show you here what the red looks like and also with what the green looks like. I was going off of the example that Honeybee stamps provide. I love using those as a guide. It is a great starting point so you can kind of see how it's supposed to go together. And then you can always make some tweaks and adjustments to what suits your taste. I did decide I liked the bright red that they showed in the example. So I'm adding little bits of liquid glue to the back of that and adding that to my tree first. And then I'm going to come in with those additional white pieces, which is going to be kind of swooping across my tree. I did add my star right away since that was sitting there. I didn't want to lose it. So these I'm going to start at the top. I did try and follow the guide that Honeybee provides, but I just kind of started winging it afterwards. As long as my swoops kind of all matched the same angle, that's all I was really looking for afterwards. Some of it is going to overlap the red that I already have on there, but that is fine. It's going to be a beautifully decorated tree. And then for the lights, as I mentioned earlier, I used a gold glitter cardstock, but of course you could do these in multiple colors or even multiple colors of glitter cardstock. For simplicity purposes and because I think it's really pretty, I just went with the gold glitter. So all I'm doing is I'm adding a dot of liquid glue and I'm going to use a pick and stick tool to pick up my lights or ornaments, I guess. We could look at them as ornaments. And I'm going to add that over the top of that liquid glue. So you kind of look at these as um, sporadically putting them on your tree, making sure they're not really lined up with each other. You want it to look a little chaotic or just a little bit not so consistent, I guess is one way to say it. So I'm going to set my tree up on the side and work on a sentiment. This comes from the Sprinkled with Joy stamp set. I also have the coordinating die for this, which I will be using. I'm stamping this in intense black ink. Originally, I thought I would stamp directly onto my card front, but I tend to change my mind on where I'm placing my sentiment. So I like having the option of die cutting this out and then moving it wherever I find it visually appealing. I did also go ahead and die cut that sentiment two more times from white cardstock. I'm going to layer them together with my liquid glue, and that's going to provide some stability behind my sentiment and also give me a little bit of dimension. My original plan was just to put this on an A2 size card front, but then I remembered I have this gorgeous, gorgeous paper pack from Honeybee Stamps, and I decided to go with some patterned paper. It's really hard to cut up or even cover some of these designs because they are beautiful. On a lot of those papers, you don't even need to have an image or design. All you need is maybe to just trim it into strips and add a sentiment. They are just that beautiful. So I am going to trim a piece to be a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I do like the size of these paper packs because I could trim that piece in half and I still have a whole nother piece that I can use for another card project. I'm going to add a tape runner to the back of this. I know it's really hard to add tape to that and cover up those beautiful flowers, but I really wanted this plaid design. I didn't want anything that would take away from the image. I still wanted to keep this a really simple design. So I place it on top of my A2 size card front. And then I have my panel that I'm going to add my tree to. That is cut, I think it is a 3 1/4 by 4 3/4. And I added foam tape behind that panel and also to my tree. I love plaid, especially around Christmas time, and I thought the green plaid just tied in really well with the tree. So I didn't think it would take away from the actual image too much. Now, before I add my tree, I want to put my sentiment down first. I seem to always be a little off if I do the image first. So I'm adding a liquid glue to the back of the sentiment. I'm going to place that down on the bottom of that panel, making sure that my margins are even on each side, and then I can remove the backing for my foam tape and add my tree to the center right above my sentiment. So maybe you have some other lovely layer add-on sets in your collection that you really want to get more use out of, and really take a good look at those and see if there's just an individual image that you could use out of it, maybe even a smaller image that you could create 3 or 4 times and create a grid on the front of your card. So just a few extra ideas to really stretch your supplies.